Yahweh is my foundation, my rock and my salvation. My faith will not be shaken, even in the storms I'm facing.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 4 of our Messianic Ministries Inc. podcast. Today, again, we have here Pastor Joe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
That's
I'm doing
good.
Very well.
Good to hear.
Yes,
Shabbat was good, huh?
Yes, Shabbat was good. We taught on Balech Ahecha, which was when you rise, and that begins with the ministry of the Levites in raising of the tabernacle and the journey, I should say, onto the promised land. But along the way, of course, they had hiccups, just like anything in ministry. You always start off in a certain path in a certain way, and then you kind of have those little hiccups on the way. And for Israel, as we get into the later parashas, we'll see why they ended up where they're at for the next 40 years.
You even touched on like the furnishings and
yes,
furnishings
the
inside
furnishings,
of
which was, I believe we had a little outline, the lampstand, the menorah, the table of showbread, also the golden altar. So there's much detail. I wish I can get into more details about that. I love the furnishings, and one day I have done an extensive study on the temple for many years, and I haven't really taught on it yet. But that's my goal, to start teaching that. So,
That's pretty exciting.
all right, I'd like to start off with a scripture, if you wouldn't mind. And it's something that's dear to my heart. And I learned this way back when I was a young disciple. But if I may, I'm just going to read just a portion of scripture. And 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 says, "Therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Yeshua Messiah. And all these things you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses. These you entrust to faithful men who are able to teach others." And I think that sets the tone for a lot of our what our ministry is all about, is to work with men who want to change their lives and want to hopefully one day be pastors. And that's a pretty much part of our ministry.
Awesome. So that kind of brings into mind our next topic that we will get into a little bit today and then some in the future, the men's home.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know about the men's
Men's
home.
home.
But I do have some questions. We did ask our community or our congregation if they had any questions to give them to us, and then we will try our best to address them.
Sure.
So if you're ready for those, one of them was, what are some challenges of working with other pastors? And I know that's kind of a tough question because it's not like we're church hopping, as they say, so we don't know what other churches do. But I think the question that the community would like to know from your viewpoint is, what are some challenges of working with other pastors?
Well, coming from California, at one time a part of the ministry that we used to be from, we had plenty of pastors that I used to, when I was a part of the men's home in California. I did a lot of their audio and setting up things because that was my background. And so we used to go out, and from very young, I guess I would say, to go help these pastors out. And then when I became a pastor, I already had built a relationship and friendship with some of them. But when we had to split, of course, those bring in heart feelings and stuff like that. But some of the pastors I still communicate often on, not as much anymore because some of them passed away. But in this community that we live in Roswell, it was pretty challenging. I have quite a few friends that I've made here in Roswell. They have called themselves evangelists. But one of the biggest parts, I think, of working with other pastors, and this is very difficult, is getting past the ego, the whole ego. Not all of them are that way, But then there's another part where they think that you're going to go in and take their people,
Hmm.
and not like that. Uh, as I said before in the past, that we used to be a ministry that helped one another. But since I've been here in Roswell, it was very challenging at times just to have conversations with some of them. But others were very friendly, helped out. I remember the really one that I used to talk to the most when I first got here in 2000, and I got here in 2004. So about 2005, 2006 was Pastor Mike at Waymaker Church. Very nice young man. Got along with him. Had a heart for his people, and I used to go to court a lot for a lot of these guys that were trying to get into the home, and I would often see him there, and we'd have conversations. We'd have sit, talk, and I thought he was a great guy, and other pastors here in the town too. But I think the hardest thing is getting past the fears, I guess. And I was a young pastor when I first started. Of course, there's always a fear of losing people to the bigger ministries, and that often happens sometimes. But
And why is that?
I don't know. I think the bigger ministries just have other offers that we can't offer them. And like I said before, it becomes a competition. I mean, they can offer them a place in their ministries and music or whatever. We had a standard of what we go by. You have to be faithful. You have to be here sometime and grow and have the same type of vision. And I really don't know what other pastors' vision are. I hear them, but sometimes I think it's just different. So it's kind of rough. But there are those pastors that you do meet and you have a kindred spirit and you can see their characteristics. They're not insecure, they're not selfish, and they're not greedy. And that kind of, if you're looking for that type of just a friend, I would
Yeah.
say, that's what you develop, and those are the ones I believe that you need to stay loyal to.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that here in the little community of Roswell, there's different ministries that will call on you because of like the men's home,
Oh
and
yeah, yes.
there's a lot of people that like help donating with
Oh
stuff, or
yes.
if they feel like they want to
Yeah.
do that. Of course, no one robs them of that.
You'd be surprised in how many churches we stepped out to go help.
Yeah.
In your experience, just in here, imagine we've been here since 2004. The home opened up in 2006, I believe it was, and you know, the gathering of men. I never had a lot of criticism. It's not going to work. It's this, that, and here yet we've been here 20 years,
Yeah.
and men are coming not because of just sheltering. They're coming to learn. And what's the scripture I just read? You trying to impart Yeshua, the lifestyle of Yeshua, Yahweh, and now we're implementing the Torah, and we're seeing the fruit of it. We're seeing these men that come and want to change, and of course, you have those who just come for a minute and leave. But also, what I've learned from these guys is that they're hard workers. Once they get that understanding and build a testimony, and they're willing to help other people, and that's what we do. We go out into the community. We've helped a lot of people in this town, and other ministries. We've helped them as well to move their churches, to do this, to do
Oh
that,
yeah. Yeah.
and it's never been. We've never shied away from the challenges.
It's awesome. So I know we'll touch on this men's home subject. What is the name of your men's home?
Ben's home.
Just men's home.
Well, we used to the heading. Well, of course, we're part of the church. It was Christian Outreach Men's Home, and then we switched the name. I had made a decision to remove the word outreach because of all the nonsense that's taken place over the years. But ever since I can remember, it's all I ever called it. I don't have any other distinct name for it other than men's home. It's a bunch of men in a home,
Yeah.
and we've had our challenges. How we first started out, we started in a house up there on Swinging Spear. Stood there for a little while, and then of course the landlord got a little, things happen financially, whatever. And then we moved from there to the west side of town for a minute. And what people really don't know is that there's blessings when you do what's right and when you're investing in people. So how we get where we're at today is all by the power of Yahweh. And Yeshua always helps us. And people seem to really don't understand how we, exist other than people. The Roswell may have some negativity, but there are also some positives. And the people that have helped us over the years have blessed us throughout over the years. And the home that we're in now was basically blessed to us, given to us, and I appreciate Dr. Marin, who's always been a friend.
Yeah, he's a good
He's
guy.
always been a friend to us, and he's always tried to help us because we help men, and we've worked with Sunrise, the prisons, the jails, and courthouses, and kept that testimony. But to see all the men over the years, and we've had our ups, our downs, our struggles,
Like anything else,
like
right?
anything else.
So what would you say the success rate of your men's home is?
Oh, well, people like to put that a success rate, but it's in this day and age, I could not even put a percentage on that because of all the things that are going on with these men's lives. One of the things I would stress dealing with men of addiction is that, including myself, being a drug addict for many years, I was kind of understanding already that I couldn't go back into the community I came out of. So, because of the old friends and whatnot. And so, whether the men here in Roswell, because of all the drug abuse, and I think what's happening now is fentanyls and
Oh
everything
yeah,
else,
it's developed pretty much.
that it has become more of a cycle. So, before we had guys going out and doing great and doing good, whatever towns and cities they come from, and some are still doing their ministries, but others have what we use the term backslid and back to drugs. And maybe they're not doing like some did heroin, meth, and everything else, but maybe they're smoking weed now because it's legal. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult to really say, oh, we're having this much success. Some people believe 6 months cures a drug addict, and really it doesn't.
No.
Not in this day and age. I mean, it's just getting worse. But what I see in the success is the transformation from a worldly mindset into a mind of Yahweh, of Elohim, and how I see a lot of you guys changing your lives and going forward and seeing the that's to me is more success than anything else.
I think you said something, the word mindset. I think that's what it boils down to, because I think opposed to other programs that are in this community or in our surrounding communities, they go off of a success rate because they are state funded. So the question is your program state funded?
No, we're not state funded.
So it's a
Everybody likes to
private.
ask that. I've been accused of, oh, he gets this much a month. No. The way it works is our program is an extension of our ministry, which is the church. So we're kind of together, and there are some within our community that help us a lot. That will donate to our ministry over the years, and various people, and you guys help out as well. I remember we used to do all kinds of things to earn money just to stay afloat. So it's a basic. It's not a whole bunch of people, but those who have a heart for it,
It counts. Yeah.
it counts, and every penny counts to see this go. And my whole thing is, even if in the beginning I surrendered a lot of my finances just to feed you guys, or just to see them with the light, gas, water, and all those things. And so people don't realize is that the investment in people uh, are invested in these men, are to see them grow up to be men of Yahweh, so they can be responsible, that their parents don't have to take care of them anymore, or they don't have to, what we call the hustle of hustling people,
Yeah.
or try to manipulate their way into get some kind of financial help, and keep them out of being in prison or homelessness, or any other
Which
positions that
which
are
is a
out there.
continual fight, right? Trying
Yes,
to
a
get these
continual
guys
fight
to stay
with
disciplined
all
and
the
whatnot.
mental illnesses that's coming
Yeah.
about. It's very difficult. So yeah, I think it's just a challenge, but we are not state funded. We depend on Yahweh 100%.
Is there a reason why you choose not to be state funded?
Well, the reason is, I think, well, I believe that it's just when you go that route, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges. And, I don't allow certain things. Well, one of them is smoking or vaping, or narcotics, or nowadays they show their little card,
Oh yeah.
and they want to smoke weed. And in some places you got to give them that uh, place to
Thinking it's a
do,
step of
thinking it's a
recovery.
step of
Yeah, and
recovery,
it's
like,
not.
the whole Suboxone deal.
There's a Suboxone plan now.
Yeah, before it used to be methadone,
And they abuse
and
that.
they abuse that, and
Yeah.
now it's Suboxone.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, how come you guys don't have Suboxone there? Like, well, we just don't. So I'd rather be free and clear with
It
all
doesn't
that.
make sense, huh? Get off one drug just to abuse
Get
another.
another drug,
Yeah.
yes.
So those are good questions. You know what? Back to the men's home name. There's a shelter in Roswell that's called Men's Home. So I think, is it safe to say we're the men's home is Messianic Ministries Men's Home?
Messianic Ministry Men's Home. Actually, the young man that runs it now, he's a good guy. He was a part of our home. He was a part of our home, and I believe that he's the one that implemented the men's home. So, I mean, to me, it's not even a big deal. It's
Right.
names are just tax reasons.
Yeah. Just the
But
title, right?
it's more of a testimony. For me, it's more about what you're producing, and what you're imparting, what you're teaching is the most. Other programs put you to work right away, and I'm not against that. I mean, I get a lot of flack about that, but I'm more about for the first
Hitler.
amount of time that they learn, and they have to learn how to be disciplined, and study, not just to study, but to deal with one-on-one characteristics, that why they're in the position that they're in. And many of these guys, including yourselves, have awesome testimonies of the turnaround that they made in their lives. So, that's for me is one of the biggest things, is that we focus on the individual, and we focus on how Yahweh is going to deal with their lives. And he does that on a daily basis. Every guy that comes in here,
They're walking miracles, huh?
walking miracles, and they go through the
Absolutely.
challenges.
Yeah. So a question is, what goes through your mind when someone that you've invested in, talking about the men's home, what happens when they go back to using? Because I know that has to feel like a punch to the gut every time that happens. But because we know that you pour your heart into someone and you see them back on the streets abusing their drugs, how do you not take that personally?
Well, a lot of prayer. even to this day, I take it personal. I mean, I try not to, but when you invest in someone, watch them grow, and every pastor has a hope. It's like your sons or your children. You just want them to do right, and you try to guide them the best way you can to a place where they can be fruitful, uh, uh, you know, prosperity and financially, also in the relationships of marriage. But when the things start going south on their lives, and you try to warn them, uh, yeah, it hurts when you see them fall down, and you try not to take it personal, but it's more of a grievance. So I always look at it as Yeshua, how he really felt when Judas fell away. It had to hurt him, and because he loves people, and even
Yeah.
when he wept over Jerusalem because the people were just basically doing their own things. So yeah, when it comes to individuals that I've seen, and you see them uh, backslidden or going through what they're going through in life, it can become very personal. But I can't focus on just that. I have other men, and I do pray for them. I just pray that they would get it together
So what do you think?
and
Do you
get
think
back.
that they just weren't ready for that change, or do you think that it's just the environment of I don't know, the temptation?
Well, we're dealing with in these last days. We're dealing with a spirit of accusation, uh, a spirit of influence. You know, a lot of people want to blame the Jezebel spirit. Everybody has a Jezebel spirit. That's that's
Control.
yeah, control. Uh, but I believe it's more of a demonic influence that is hard to see, because sometimes when you see someone that you truly love, you don't want to believe that they're doing weird things, or they're believing somebody else. There's like trust when you first, you're together as one, and then someone comes in and just pulls you away. So, and that's heartbreaking for me. I'll go and pray. Is it me? Is it me? And
Yeah.
so to see that happen is a struggle, but it's very spiritual, very spiritual. And when we can't recognize those spirits because we love that person so much, we tend to just let them go instead of warning them. I warn people, hey, I'll pull them aside. I talk to them, hey, this is what's happening. And sometimes they will listen and sometimes they won't.
It's just rebel.
And so, yes, and it's very spiritual, very spiritual.
That's crazy, huh? That has to be hard.
Yes.
Um, so how many chances would you give someone that who in your home that keeps relapsing? It's a question.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unlimited chances. I had an individual that's been coming to our program
yeah,
since 2000. I've known him for now 25 years, but he's been coming in and back and forth and back and forth, and many guys do, because I've always had that hope that maybe this is one time they'll get it. Maybe this just one time they'll get it. And as many guys that come and go, for me, I've always prayed, Father, let me try to work with this person different or do this. One of the young men right now, I kind of called me from jail for I don't know how many months. And I kept saying, no, 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 I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But then there's a side of me that when I'm praying, and out of nowhere in my prayer, his name will pop up or things will pop up. And my heart goes out to them, is because they're lost. And they go around trying every program in the world, and they always seem to call me back, or hey, can you let me stay? Can you do this? All the promises in the world. And so I just want to do what's right before the Father. And I said, well, you know what? I had many chances, and I failed a lot. But then there was that one day when the light went on,
yeah,
And I kind of said, you know what, I don't want to do this. And that's my hope for a lot of these guys who keep returning is I hope one day they just make it the one time and prosper and be
Just run
blessed.
with it, huh?
Yes, and run with it.
So at what point does enabling become more harmful than helping?
Well,
That's a tough
this
one.
is a very tough one. Is because, like I said, it becomes more about how much you care for an individual. And I used to strongly believe in tough love, which I kind of do still. But I think I raised you on tough love. And but I think it's what we look at is the loyalty to Yahweh. I don't want anybody to leave our home and to fail. There's a lot of things that happens and there's characteristics, but I don't think at any time I ever really give up on anybody. It's just more like I don't want to enable them, but there are some times when you just have to say enough is enough, and you got to make that decision. And I don't do nothing without prayer. I seek Yahweh, and and for me, Yahweh is always give me that discernment, that strong spirit of discernment to say, hey, well, it's time to let go. And that's what I do.
That's crazy, huh?
Difficult, but yes.
So how would you respond when someone blames you personally for someone else's failure in your program?
Well, they don't have to do that a lot because I already do that.
Well,
But I understand what the question is like, because once they leave, and I've gotten this a lot over the years, matter of fact, from different ministries, uh, I'm not going to name the ministries, but they have, I deal with men. I don't deal with children. The youngest I think we've had was 18 years old. I've had a 16-year-old young man who I just had lunch with his mom not long ago. And he was thanking me that he got the opportunity to see what his future could be. And now he's living in Las Cruces. He's doing great. And he's a good kid. And he's 28 now or 29 years old now. And he works. And he's always had that in the back of his mind that, you know what, I don't want to be like those guys I see in the home.
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's when other people leave, and I've had this when different people call me and talk about our program, because some guys go back home to their mommies and their daddies, and they still have that problem, but they just don't know how to deal with it. But they want me to coddle them and things like that. Well, they're grown men, and some of them need that tough love, while others need that encouragement.
So you become the scapegoat.
I become the scapegoat of a lot of hearsay, a lot of accusations.
You know
What
what?
bothers me the most is that, some people who don't know me will
Go off the hearsay
go off hearsay.
instead of getting to know you. Yeah.
Exactly.
You said the spirit of accusation. Like I know what that means, but for the record, what does
Well,
that mean? The spirit of accusation.
in Revelations and throughout the scriptures, you find it in Isaiah in different places that Satan, Hasatan, is the accuser of the brethren. So it's a demonic spirit that comes from Satan. And I believe that many times when things don't go people's way, that spirit hits them to accuse others to deflect of what they're doing
Hmm.
or what they're not doing. And so it's an ugly spirit to have. And a lot of it begins by hearsay. Somebody would, this is something I went through a lot. And they would hear something here and they take it back to another person. And then all of a
It
sudden,
just grows.
or that
Huh?
person
Yeah.
doesn't see something and doesn't like and accuses you of whatever. And then it becomes slanderous.
You think it has to do with offense?
Absolutely. I think when people get offended, most people that are insecure about themselves become very offended.
That's a harsh reality.
Yeah, and what they do is that they'll create this old image in their minds that something's going on and nothing's going on. So that becomes demonic spirits. And
Okay.
it's ugly.
Yeah, that's horrible. So I got $3 million questions. Are you ready for them?
Hmm.
Dun dun dun. Drum roll. So how do you address wives, mothers, sisters, or any other female family member that don't understand the Torah lifestyle and the changes that they come with for the individuals that are in your program? Because I know family members watching their loved ones change can feel threatened or confused, especially with this whole Hebraic approach. And I think that these women see these men, I don't know, there's some bit of confusion in the mindset of a lot of women. And I know we're not here to bash women because they're our sisters in Yeshua, but the $1 million question is how how do you address the women that don't understand what you're doing with these guys?
Well, a lot of women fear to come talk to me about. There are some that want me to see their point of view, and I do. I do see their point of view. All right. They feel sorry for their sons at times. And very rarely you'll get a mom and say, "Here, deal with him," without wanting to coddle him. But I think it's just more of a misunderstanding of who I am because sometimes I could be dogmatic. But if you get to the scriptures, how Yahweh deals with it. Now, everybody has made this misconception of Yeshua, of, he had women in ministry, this and that. And really, that's not the case. Yahweh deals with men, and we are men, and we have an order. And there's a place for women in the scriptures of what they're supposed to do. So there are to be intercessors. They teach other women to be discreet, to learn to put themselves, okay, with respect, honor their father, honor their husbands, honor their children, their wives. I mean, their kids as well. Matter of fact, Proverbs 31 teaches the whole thing on that. And but over the years, it has changed. Our society has changed. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if you would look on every news outlet, even in whatever, who's speaking more over men? And even in our
Women.
politics, it's women. It's the
Yeah.
evidence is there. So our society has changed over the years of putting women in charge, and the churches follow suit. Okay, women for some reason they want to take control of things, and it's very difficult.
It's not biblical.
It's not biblical because they're
We'll
supposed to
start with
be
that.
helpers.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be helpers, but it's really up to the men to teach their wives, not so much to how to be submissive. We can learn a lot from our wives. I've learned a lot from my wife. I've learned how to be courteous. I've learned how to. There's things that you think you have it all together and you really don't. But there has to be a balance. So in our ministry, we're not trying to bash women or to hurt anyone. At least I'm not. But to educate them in their place where they need to be as far as serving Yahweh. And that's up to their study. I bring it out and I will mention it. And I know it's very difficult sometimes because women want leadership. Why do they? The question for me to the women today should be, why do you want leadership
Right.
when it's a hard task?
But it's again, we're going back to scripture, like it's not biblical. So if a woman of belief wants the role of a man, then that says a lot for itself, right?
Yeshua called 12 disciples,
Right. Not 12 women.
not 12 women.
Right. Again, we're not bashing
Yeah,
women.
not bashing with it. But if a woman is studious, and they blame Eve, they can blame Eve, not double-minded. A double-minded person is undecisive, and they're looking more at titles than they're looking at the scriptures. So if you are following the scriptures, And whether it be old or new, there's a place for everybody. And there's a place, our place are to be at the feet of Yahweh. Hannah spoke, she was at the feet of Yahweh, but then yet people, ministries make Hannah the prayer leader.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so there's various ways, but the instruction is given to men that they would instruct their wives. And it is me and my wife try to work together. Is it easy? No, it's never easy. And it's not because of my ego or her trying to control me. If there is a man in the world that doesn't understand that with his wife,
What was that little club the Little Rascals had?
He-Man, Woman Hater Club.
Yeah.
I used to be the president.
That's great.
But I just think that any woman, when it comes to, let's say, the men's home, I've had countless women trying to. I really had this one mother yanking on my door. Let me see what's inside. I'm like, madam, you cannot come into this house. It's a men's home.
Right.
I've had this young person, this woman, I should say, I don't want to say elderly,
Right.
come to our home with bags of food saying, I want to cook for these men. And I was like, well, I appreciate the thought and I appreciate it. I wish you can, but I can't let that happen because it's a men's home. You can give us the food and I give it to them. She said, no. And her turn was, God told her to come cook. I said, I'm sorry, I can't allow you in our home. And I don't even let my wife, I think she's probably been in there maybe in 20 years 3 times.
Just to look
at it really quick. And then we had one incident.
Right.
But I've never let my wife, or my wife wouldn't even come over and push,
Right.
on the pastor's wife.
She knows her.
She knows her place.
Right.
And she respects that. She respects
Exactly.
the office. And so, but over the years, I've had girls come in and banging on the door, yelling, thinking that there's girls in there. I have prostitutes, all kinds of stuff.
The spirit of accusation.
Yeah. So, and then of course those get out there, and Pastor Joe has a brothel, and I think it was accused that I'm running drugs from California and
We've
all
heard
types.
it all.
Yes,
Huh?
everything, every accusation in the book.
So it seems like a lot of the drama came from the men's home.
Yes, it comes from the men's home. Well, everybody has their opinion about the men's home, even in the congregation. I had men and women who'd never been in the men's home, but they want to tell you how to run it.
If it was me, I would do this.
Yes, if I was this, I could do that. I had one literally crying and said, "I'm never going to support you again." Okay.
And tell her one of her kids need help.
Yeah, and it's the way it goes.
Yeah. I think that's it for the questions for today. Would you like to share anything else before we close?
Well, I hope it shed some light a little bit. There's so much more to deal with and talk about in this day and age. And I would just say to a lot of people of Roswell, really, really get into your Bible and study your word, and to really look at it Hebraically if you can. How you do that is that you find nowadays they got books that teach you Hebrew, and there are certain books that have words. Next time I'll bring one and I'll show you that show you the way how to study in Hebrew. And it's not that you're trying to forsake your heritage. Hebrew is our heritage. It's not the form of Christianity, which is secular. So I would encourage everyone, when you study, just find 1 or 2 words that minister to you and look it up in the Hebrew, and it shows you the application, because that's the heart of Yahweh.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, until next one. Shalom.
All right. Shalom.